Hey guys, what's up? It's Dave. It is time to do our homework and do our market review. Starting up with the SPY cash index. You can see we have made a pretty huge move from these lows to the highs of about 31%. That's not 100% accurate, but it's at about. And you know, we had a pullback last week. I was saying, hey, this might be the beginnings of a deeper correction, maybe 5-10%. We really only got down to 3.2% or so. And it has done nothing but get bought up all week. We did not make all-time highs this week in the SPY, but that's really not that big of a deal. We're only 0.85 or 0.58% away from all-time highs. So as long as we continue to respect this white line, which is 8 EMA, and blue line, which is a 21 EMA, you know, I'm not gonna sound the alarms too much. Actually, I never really sound the alarms, but either way, this right here is what was one of the like, this might be a little bit something more, was this close below the 21 EMA, which was indeed the first time I did that since, you know, mid to late April. So it was a little warning signal. Maybe we'll see what actually happens. Maybe we'd start distributing and chopping sideways, and then we start curling down for a deeper pullback. Not sure, but we just play the price action, see what happens. Here's a SPY for you. This is the cash index. This is not, again, 0.42% away from the highs. RSP is the equally weighted S&P 500, so it takes out the weight of the big caps. I always like to look at this to see, you know, what the average of the market is doing without the heavyweights. So this is a little bit of a deeper pullback to the 50, the yellow line is the 50 EMA. You know, we are 2.7% away from the all-time highs there. Let's just go from this high, and you know, we had about 4.25% correction there, pullback, whatever you want to call it. Either way, this right here, it was basically a breakout and retest. You can have that argument. It did undercut this low and went back up. We're just getting a little consolidation. It just depends on what it wants to do from here, whether it wants to consolidate and start curling up or whether it wants to kind of break on down. We'll be watching either way. The Qs printed all-time highs on Friday, so we're only 0.04% from all-time highs. Strong names. Here's a cash index, same thing. Equally weighted Qs. Looks similar to the equally weighted SPY, chopping around the 50 EMA, that is, 3.2% away from the all-time high. So this is, again, taking out the heavy weight of the top, you know, 10, 11 names and equalizing the weight across the 100 names in the index there. Dow, I don't know. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's super important, but not with what I do, but in general, I guess. But it's something to pay attention to. I don't really look at it too much, but it's just kind of chopping around from 2.13% from all-time highs. Nothing too crazy. Russell 2000, nothing too crazy here. 10% away from all-time highs, and it held the 200 EMA here. But other than that, like just looking at it, it's kind of chopping around. So nothing, again, small cap 2000, just chopping around. And then the Russell 3000 ETF. This is actually kind of interesting. This is 0.5%, 0.5% away from all-time highs. So we get a nice, this looks very similar to the SPY and even the Q. So that looks interesting. I don't trade it very much, but again, just to have it in the back of your head. Let's go to the individual sectors here. Materials, nice pullback. I don't know. Nothing of interest in my opinion. Communications, I do like. We have Google and Meta, and there's another top three that I can't think of off the top of my head. Either way, if this wants to continue to consolidate, and also Google did break out of a little consolidation on Friday, which I am in, this might want to start curling up. So names within the XLC, which I look at, the top three in this ETF sector, sorry, might be of interest to you. Energy, not really doing anything, chopping sideways. You know, you can do a down or an uptrend line and it broke that and it retested it and maybe it travels down. Who knows? I guess, you know, this 84.40 level would be pretty interesting. Financials, holding the 50. Long-term trend is up, but for now, since mid-June, hasn't really done anything, just kind of chopping sideways. Industrials trending up. Looks somewhat similar to SPY and Qs. I don't really know. I don't know. This, I would think this would just continue to chop and maybe start curling upwards. It's been showing some relative strength here. It's not like it's been chopping and doing nothing for months on end, kind of like XLF here. XLI, it's had a nice little trend here. So maybe it's just resting and we're going to get a continuation up. XLK, I don't know how you cannot be in technology right now. That's what's kind of moving the market. And, it's making all-time highs just last week. It's only 0.78% away from all-time highs. Tech is definitely my focus personally. Staples, this does absolutely nothing, just chopping around sideways, probably like it should. And then we have real estate, not really doing much. Utilities, this is it broke out of this little chop sideways here, so maybe this trend will continue higher. We shall see. This is also a breakout from the prior all-time highs here too. I think they were prior all-time highs. Yeah. And so, that might want to continue trending. XLV healthcare, I marked this area last week around here. It bounced off of it. Now it's making a new low versus that. So now we have lower highs and lower lows. We'll see if this holds here and consolidates. Either way, it is, you'd be playing a support play here. Some of the names might be interesting in this, but with that look, I have zero interest in the overall index or sector. Consumer discretionary could be interesting. Chopped out here, start a little trend, little pullback, maybe it starts trending up here. I don't really pay attention. The nicey thing, this is what I really look at most of the time myself. So this has the top 10 names in it, and you can see these top 10 names. They're really carrying the market right now. As you can see that difference in the SPY versus the RSP, right? And so it kind of gives you an idea of how strong the heavier weights are doing. Bitcoin, 5.3% off of its all-time highs. Just kind of chopping here, undercut these lows. It's kind of retesting here, so I'd be curious if it wants to trend back down or if it's going to hold. We shall see, but either way, we had a nice breakout in early June. Let's look at some ETFs that I like to look at as well. Really, we'll just go through a couple of them. SMH, so semiconductors ETF. Obviously, these are chopping. Semiconductors are, they're pretty strong, especially with NVIDIA and AMD. They're getting a lot of attention right now. So we'll see if this actually wants to break out. It's really been doing nothing since early July when it kind of entered this sideways chop here. You never know until, hindsight's always 20/20, but we really would like a, break these highs, although we did have an undercut these lows here. We'll see if that actually holds, but stocks, I think the only difference between this semiconductor and this one was the weighting of some names. I mostly look at the SMH, but just so you know, there's that one out there too. Either way, do your homework, stay prepped, and good luck this week. Later.